There is a popular saying in leadership that if you think you're leading and there's nobody following you, you are only going on a walk. On this platform, you are going to learn principles of leadership. You are going to encounter different leaders. You are going to learn about how you can grow as a leader, how you can make an impact. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm the host for the leadership platform. I am a leadership coach, a lawyer by profession, a John C. Maxwell certified coach. I have been in corporate life in senior positions for several years, and now I run the Center for Transformational Leadership, where we train and coach leaders to become better leaders. And I invite you to go on a journey with us as we discuss the subject of leadership in the coming weeks.
This and every Saturday, you have opportunity to ask questions, share your views on important leadership matters.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. You are welcome to the leadership platform. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm excited that you have joined us. We believe that so many people are joining on Facebook, on YouTube, and we appreciate you for spending part of your time with us on this Saturday evening. Our prayer is that the Lord God would this evening speak to us, guide us through the speaker who is going to share the topic of the leader as a coach with us, that by the time we finish, each one of us will be inspired and will be energized and learn something to grow to become a better leader. At the Center for Transformational Leadership, our purpose is to share ideas, is to stimulate learning, and to change the thinking and the understanding of leadership. So we are pleased that you are with us, and we thank you for making the time to be with us. As always, we know that you are going to learn a lot. Please feel free to share your views and your comments. Send your questions in. We are going to spend about 30 minutes with the speaker talking to us, 35 minutes. The speaker will be speaking to us. Then we'll have another 40 minutes in which you will have an interaction. We'll take your own views. We'll take questions and your comments. And please feel free to share as we go along how you are feeling, what you are learning, what your takeaways are. And please let us learn together. This is a learning platform, and we encourage active participation. So thank you all for coming. And this evening we are excited, and I'm very happy to introduce the speaker for this evening. He's my boss, so I call him the boss. Dr. Modipe Telapiers is a scholar and a practitioner of leadership, organization, and management. He is a leadership trainer, a coach, and facilitator who has successfully trained and facilitated workshops for over 10,000 people in various corporations in North America, in Europe, and Africa. His former and current clients include the World Bank Group, the United Nations Population Fund, Sara Lee, PPG Industries, EcoBank, Fleming Food, Remington, and so on. Dr. Modupe is the first and only person from Sierra Leone to ever qualify for and attend and graduate from the United States Military Academy at West Point. He is a former military leader with combat experience. He has served in the Republic of Sierra Leone military forces as an infantry officer in combat during Civil War and was actually shot twice in battle. He has a track record of completing the mission and a reputation for developing the people he leads. So, with that kind of military experience, I believe that we are ready for him. Dr. Modupe was the founding dean of the Africa Leadership University's School of Business and now serves as a visiting professor. He is also the founding dean of Kora Coaching Academy based in Rwanda, and is also the only Sierra Leonean with a PhD in leadership. So we have the best of the best from Sierra Leone this evening to speak to us. Dr. Modupe is currently the CEO, is actually the founder and CEO of the Breakfast Club Africa, which is a Pan-African leadership enhancement organization, and is present currently in 8 countries. So, ladies and gentlemen on the call, I believe that we have a very qualified personality, full of experience, full of knowledge, full of wisdom to lead us in this evening's discussion. Before Dr. Modupe comes, we would like to just share with you a short video on Breakfast Club Africa. You are all very welcome, and thank you for your participation at the Leadership Platform.
What is Breakfast Club Africa? Breakfast Club Africa is a Pan-African organization formed with the singular purpose of igniting exponential growth in African companies through the provision of amazing learning experiences for leaders of African companies. At BCA, we recognize that Africa needs economic growth, and Africa needs jobs, and company leaders want their companies to succeed and grow. Yet the growth rate of non-African owned companies in Africa far exceeds the growth rate of African owned companies. This is a problem that Breakfast Club Africa was designed to solve. By creating amazing learning experiences for African business leaders, we are igniting their leadership growth and the growth of their companies. Members meet monthly for peer learning meetings and problem solving and benefit from coaching from the best leadership coaches in Africa. In our 3 years of existence, we have already positively impacted over 100 CEOs from 11 countries. If you are the leader of your company and you want your company to accelerate its growth, join BCA. Learn with and from other leaders with a growth mindset. Africa needs you to be at your best.
Much for watching that video, and I'm pleased to say that I am one of the 3 co-facilitators with Sarah and Catherine, serve as a co-facilitators of the Breakfast Club in Ghana, and we've been hosting monthly breakfast meetings with CEOs for the last, I think we are now in the 10th or 11th month. Every month we have a meeting with CEOs where we have experienced CEOs speak to them, and CEOs share their experiences and lessons. That's part of the development. And Breakfast Club Africa is also in partnership with CTL Africa to help in the development of leaders in Africa. We all need to join hands, work together, create this momentum, create this movement of leaders across Africa so that we can lift up our continent. So with those words, I would like to invite Dr. Modipe Taylor-Pierce to speak to us. Thank you, Doc. You are welcome.
Thank you very, very much, Samuel. And thank you very much to Sarah Jesse and to CTL Africa and to all of the organizers of this program. I am so elated to be on this program. I have watched with great interest the activities of CTL Africa and also this Saturday evening learning forum. And I have also benefited from it, having watched quite a few of the sessions. And I am a huge admirer of the work that is being done. And I must say that when I listened and I watch what is happening with CTL Africa, I have a lot of hope for Africa, because the more that we can make the topic of leadership reach the frontal lobes of our consciousness so that it can affect each and every one of us in Africa that is an adult, the better it will be for Africa. And this is why I'm excited about the partnership between Breakfast Club Africa and CTL Africa, and really looking forward to transforming Africa through every one of you. So today I've been asked to talk about the leader as a coach. I'd like to start at a place that hopefully many of us might be familiar. How many of you have heard of Alex Ferguson? I suspect most people know that name quite well. Some people may know him better as Sir Alex Ferguson. For many years, he was the manager of one of the wealthiest clubs and most successful clubs in Premier League history, called Manchester United. And he's probably a big reason why there are so many Manchester United fans all over the world. So Alex Ferguson was easily one of the most successful managers in Manchester United history. Under his rule, Manchester United won many FA Cups, Premier League titles, and also multiple Champions League titles, as well as Super League titles. And they even won the treble in 1999. Prior to coming to Manchester United, he had been a very successful manager at a small Scottish club called Aberdeen, where he broke the stranglehold that Rangers and Celtic had on the Scottish title. So there's no doubt that as a manager, he was extremely successful. However, since Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United, none of his protege managers, none of his assistant managers, none of the people that he managed through have had successful managerial careers. So despite the amazing success he had leading the team as a manager, his legacy in being able to groom other managers is mediocre. What happened? What kind of a leader was Sir Alex Ferguson that his own managers, his deputies, the ones that he groomed, have not been able to have success? Hold on to that thought. Many, many, many thousands of years ago, Jesus Christ roamed the earth. And he spent about 3 years transforming and developing his ministry. And he had 12 key disciples. And he invested time into them. From the 3 years that he had with them, after his death, these 12 disciples went on to spread the legacy of Jesus Christ throughout the world. They became powerful leaders in their own right, very effective. The leadership style of Jesus Christ was a leadership in which he acted not only as a leader, but also as a coach. The leadership style of Sir Alex Ferguson was a style in which he was a very effective leader, but he did not act as a coach to the other managers. And today I'm here to share with you a bit about how we can be coaching leaders and why we should be coaching leaders. And the why is very simple. It's because we can be leaders who are non-coaching leaders, and we can still achieve the numbers. But what will happen is that once we're gone, those numbers cannot be sustained because we have not left behind people who are equipped to lead as effectively as we have led. When you're a coaching leader, you can still achieve the numbers. But in addition, you leave the organization in a position such that others whom you have developed can not only achieve those same numbers, but enhance what you have done. It's really about sustainability. Now, I know that there are some people who might take pleasure in being able to say that, since I left that place, there's been nobody like me. But that is a rather prideful and dangerous statement to take pride in. Because our goal as leaders should not only be to make a difference and to grow and to enhance our organizations, but should be also to make sure that our organizations can continue to be enhanced many decades after we have left the scene. This is one of the things that makes Africa not be as prosperous as other places. When we look at institutions in Europe and in America, some of the venerable institutions have been around for decades, even centuries. In Africa, we struggle to find institutions that have lasted more than 2 generations. So the reason to be a coaching leader is that you can create sustainable results that outlast and outlive your tenure. So you can be a coaching leader or you can be a non-coaching leader. And the choice today is yours. And I'm going to share with you how to get there. The difference between the coaching leader and the non-coaching leader is this. Some leaders lead followers, and some leaders lead leaders. When you're leading, and the issue as to whether the people you're leading are followers or leaders depends on you, the leader, not them. You make them become what you want. So if you're the type of leader that gives a lot of instructions, you're brilliant, you're the smartest person in the room, then you're leading followers, and you can definitely get results. Sir Alex was masterful at pushing the buttons of his players, of the referees, of the training staff, of the media, so that he could achieve the scores and the results that he wanted on the pitch. But there was no doubt that he was captain of the bus, he was running the show, he gave the instructions, everybody followed. Exactly the way he wanted it done. There was no room for a lot of debate on Sir Alex's teams. By contrast, if you read the Bible and you read about how Jesus Christ led, very often he did not give a lot of instructions. When he was asked questions, he would answer with questions back. He challenged his disciples and his lieutenants to come up with solutions for themselves. My favorite is the story of when he was feeding, when he was preaching, and the story of feeding the 5,000. And the disciples said to him, "What are we going to do? How are we going to feed these people?" Now, does anybody really think that Jesus didn't know how to do it? Of course he did. But he said to them, "You feed them. You'll figure something out." So the key to being a coaching leader is really unlocking the potential of the people who report to you, because you are leading leaders, and leaders make decisions. Leaders do not just follow instructions. Leaders do not just follow orders. Yes, they sometimes have to do it, but what makes them leaders is that they have the opportunity to think through, make decisions, come up with solutions. And if the people that you are leading are being bereft or deprived of that opportunity by you, then you are not being a coaching leader. So now I've used the term coaching a lot. So let me just share a bit of what coaching is. Next slide, please. Coaching is a process to unlock a person's potential to maximize their performance. It's a process of helping people to learn rather than teaching them. Now, to simplify it, coaching or coaches get you to think. They get you to come up with solutions. If you could move to the next slide, please. Coaching helps to unlock your performance. This afternoon, I was having a conversation with my father, who spent many years as a CEO of a couple of multinational organizations. And he said, you know, the leader really has to understand the strengths and weaknesses of his or her people, don't they? And I said, yes, he or she does. I said, but the coaching leader doesn't stop at understanding the strengths and weaknesses of his or her people. The coaching leader makes sure that his or her people understand their own strengths and weaknesses. A coaching leader is focused on empowering his or her people. When you empower your people, you empower them with awareness. You empower them with the ability to make decisions. You empower them by challenging them to think through problems. it is too simple and too easy for people to come to you with problems. You then give them the answers, and then they run off and execute. That's leading followers. But when they come to you with problems and you get them to think through those problems, then you are leading leaders. There are a couple of benefits of the coaching methodology in leading. First of all, it really challenges the person that you're leading to come up with various perspectives. And that's very useful, because if you're constantly the one coming up with the solutions as the leader, then you may be doing your organization a disservice, because you may be the smartest person in the room, but that doesn't mean that you have all of the best ideas. So by challenging the people whom you lead to consider different perspectives, to think of their own solutions, you're actually expanding the universe of opportunities for your organization and putting it on a better footing so that they're making wiser decisions. Secondly, coaching really allows people to originate their ideas. And that gives them a sense of ownership. Because you see, folks, it's not just about coming up with the best idea when it comes to organizations and success. It's about implementing it. And if you're going to implement ideas, then you're going to run into obstacles. And when people run into obstacles, those challenges are more likely to be overcome by people who have ownership of the idea in the first place. And if it was just executing your idea, then when they run into enough obstacle, they say, well, that's the boss's idea. Let's go back to him and ask him what he wants, as opposed to them coming up with a solution. Thirdly, coaching really helps you, the leader, to get to groom the people to become good leaders. I cannot overstate the importance of learning how to make decisions. See, many of us make decisions in life. What time to get up, whether to eat, etc. Those aren't the simple decisions I'm talking about. Those are physiological decisions. They're generally easy. But leaders have to make decisions in an absence of clarity or an absence of sureness. You may not have all the right things. The decision is not necessarily just between what's good and what's bad. It may be between what's good and what's good. And when you have to make those decisions, that takes courage, it takes vision, it takes passion, and frankly, you get better with it as you keep doing it, like practice. And if you are not grooming your people to get into the habit of being able to make decisions, then you are doing your organization a disservice. So you may be leading, we may be leading and achieving the numbers, but a big part of our duty is to make sure that we are leading, achieving the numbers, and grooming the next leader behind us. Next slides, please. One more. So why is this whole concept of being a coaching leader so difficult to do? Because the reality is a great percentage of leaders in Africa are not coaching leaders. And there are reasons for it. And I want to explore some of it. And perhaps some of these may resonate with you. But have no fear. I am here to encourage you that it can be done. The first reason is that it takes time. And time is precious, and time is a finite resource, and time is always scarce for us. Because it's much quicker when people to just bark out the instructions to say, do this and follow this, etc. Or when people come with a question, you just give them the answer and say, okay, let's move on with this. That's much quicker. And when we do that, we get the answers, we solve the problem right away, the immediate problem. The second reason why it's so hard is because it requires a tolerance for mistakes. Because yes, your people may come up with ideas that you may not have approved or have enjoyed or have appreciated. Thirdly, it takes patience. And many of us as leaders don't have that, but it really is worth it. And lastly, it takes humility. Because the reality is that sometimes when you groom people and you ask them for their ideas, you discover that they're actually smarter than you are. And they might have better ideas than yours. And that can really rub against your ego. But ultimately, remember, you're not just there to feed your ego, to achieve numbers so that people can praise you and clap. You're there to set the organization on a trajectory of success that will outlive and outlast you. And if you keep that perspective, then you will be a coaching leader. So I just want to leave you with 4 things to keep in mind. If many of you are thinking, how do I become a coaching leader? Do I have to go through some certification process? Not necessarily. Here are some 4 quick guidelines to keep in mind. Number 1, next slide, please. Let's go to the last slide. To be a coaching leader, number 1, remember, ask questions. Coaching leaders ask questions much more often than they give instructions. That's very important. Even when they are asked questions, they usually respond with questions again, because the whole point is to get your people to think and to resist the urge to give answers right away. So if you could move to the next slide, please, Kofi. So to be a coaching leader, number 1, ask questions, especially open-ended questions. Open-ended questions get your people to think. They cannot just answer with yes, sir, no, sir, or 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Second thing about being a coaching leader to keep in mind is learn as much as possible to speak last when you're in a group meeting. Because if you come up with any ideas or any solutions, generally, if you're the leader, everybody else is looking to just agree with you because you have some power over them. So you want to, as much as possible, ask the questions and let people speak so you can hear their ideas. And they get used to making decisions, to coming up with solutions, to analyzing things for themselves. Number 3 is encourage often. It's really scary. You may be used to making decisions in a vacuum of information. You may be used to making decisions when everything is imperfect, but they may not be. And it's really important that you encourage them when they do this, because the process is just as important as the result. So be an encourager. Yes, when they don't get it right, you can still course correct. You can course correct by asking them questions that get them to think about. So rather than saying, well, if you do this, it will cause this problem, you can ask them questions so that it's more of, okay, well, when you do this, what are the risks? What are the benefits? And get them to think about it, because the more you get them to think about it, that when they get used to it, then they will start to do that on their own long after you're gone. And that's how the organization is set up for success in the long term. Please move me to the next slide. Ask the questions, learn to speak last whenever possible, encourage often. And the fourth one is one that I suspect many of us, especially the male leaders in Africa, struggle with, which is avoid the temptation to be the smartest person in the room. It will serve your ego, but it will not serve the organization. And that temptation shows itself in us giving the answers. People ask you and you give the answers. People say, well, what should we do? Oh, well, this is what I think. And of course, once you say what you think, everybody else spends their time fawning over you to say, oh, yes. Oh, yes, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about saying. So this is why you avoid the temptation, and you avoid the temptation by asking questions, by seeking the input of others. When you do that on a consistent basis, you will not only help your organization to achieve the results in the short term and the medium term, but you will also make sure that long after you are gone, that the company, the organization, is on a trajectory for success. GE is one of the most successful and widely known corporations in America. And in the 1980s and 90s, Jack Welch was rated for many, many years the most successful CEO. Jack writes in his book that the last 5 years of his tenure as CEO was almost primarily focused on succession planning. And not only did he spend a lot of time in preparing his successor, but he made sure that the 3 people who were in line for successor all knew that one of them would succeed and the other 2 would actually leave the organization. So they had to prepare their succession plan. It was a long, drawn-out process, and Jack was criticized many times for it. But today, almost 2 decades after Jack Welch has left GE, GE is still a very successful company, and it has continued to grow. That's because Jack learned to become a coaching leader. He spent less time giving instructions and more time asking questions. And today, there are hundreds of thousands of employees who owe to Jack a debt of gratitude all over the world because he learned to become a coaching leader. I hope that listening to us are more than just 1, 2, 10, 20 leaders who will create the next GE in Africa, the next corporation that will not only be a famous corporation like Dangote during our generation, but more importantly, will be still a famous corporation 100 years from now. I encourage you to be a coaching leader. Thank you very much. I'm going to pause here and take some questions from the audience.
Odupe, thank you. That was very straight to the point. Great points made. So let me see what is coming. Reverend Isaac Ampim say, I'm glad to be with you. Maggie is here watching. Delighted to connect. Happy to see you. Thanks for the opportunity, Reverend Alabi, Victoria Tufose, really on point to some point. Reverend Appleton say good point. Judith Owusu connected. Okay, so those are the points, but those are very, very, very great points that I think Dr. Modukwe has shared with us. It is not easy. It takes time. It takes patience and humility. And those are things that a lot of leaders actually need to work on. So please connect with us, share your thoughts, share your questions. We have Dr. Modukwe, who is an experienced coach and experienced leader. So send in your questions that disturbing you, why you're not moving to the next level, what you need to do. And he's here, he'll probably be coaching, he's ready to coach you now to become a coach. So please, whilst we wait for more questions to come on board, let's once again, for those who came late, let's watch the BCA Africa video quickly.
What is Breakfast Club Africa? Breakfast Club Africa is a Pan-African organization formed with the singular purpose of igniting exponential growth in African companies through the provision of amazing learning experiences for leaders of African companies. At BCA, we recognize that Africa needs economic growth, and Africa needs jobs, and company leaders want their companies to succeed and grow. Yet, the growth rate of non-African owned companies in Africa far exceeds the growth rate of African-owned companies. This is a problem that Breakfast Club Africa was designed to solve. By creating amazing learning experiences for African business leaders, we are igniting their leadership growth and the growth of their companies. Members meet monthly for peer learning meetings and problem solving and benefit from coaching from the best leadership coaches in Africa. In our 3 years of existence, we have already positively impacted over 100 CEOs from 11 countries. If you are the leader of your company and you want your company to accelerate its growth, join BCA. Learn with and from other leaders with a growth mindset. Africa needs you to be at your best.
And I want to remind everybody, especially the CEOs, leaders of organizations and leaders of churches, that we have a cohort of Breakfast Club Africa in Ghana. Sarah Jesse Apia, myself, and Catherine Engman are the co-facilitators, and every month we hold breakfast meetings for CEOs. So those of you interested, you can contact me. All right, so Doc, there are a few questions coming up. Before I go on, Victoria Tufor says, well done. Samuel Heavy says, very great teacher. Kisiwa Mercy says, great insights. Frank Asian is asking this question. He says, the mindset of most leaders in Africa, even in the world, is that they employ people and pay people because these people possess some competence and skill sets that are needed to solve problems. So why would such leaders pay you and coach you as well? What do you say to this? So the point is, I mean, you have competences, I'm employing you to come and do something. Why should I coach you to become a leader once you're doing what you have to do? So what do you say to that? That's one question for you. Stella Ado says, wow, I really love your presentation, Dr. Modukwe. Very eye-opening and inspiring. I've learned a lot and will coach leaders rather than followers. Freda Mensah, very insightful and brilliant. All right. So if you take that question, then we'll continue. There's so many comments coming. Victoria, as someone, maybe you should add this one. How do you deal with leaders whose leadership style is to have followers and not leaders as a subordinate? How do you lead as a follower under such a leader? So those are the two questions you can take now, and then we'll continue. The one from Frank and the one from Victoria.
Thank you very much, Sam. So, I believe Frank was asking, the question of, hey, if as a leader, I'm paying somebody to do a job,
yes.
Why should I then additionally invest in them by coaching them?
Yes.
The reason is quite simple. Because hopefully you don't plan on just leading that size of company that you're leading forever. Because for you to grow, for your organization to grow, the people under you need to grow. Otherwise, 10 years from now, your organization will be about the same size. And if what you, as a leader, your job is not to maintain the status quo, even if the status quo is profitable and it is able to afford you to buy and build 3 or 4 or 5 houses, your job is to take the organization to the next level of growth, because Africa needs that. So when you invest in your people, and it is true, you bring them on as technical experts, whether it's finance or it's procurement or it's operations or it's human resource. That's where they come in as, with their technical expertise. But it is in your interest, it is in the organization's interest that someday those people are able to become a CEO of that organization. Because not only do they need to take over your position, but let's say you are running a company and you are making furniture in Ghana. Part of your vision may be that you start making it in Ghana. You may want to open up in another country, or you may want to expand from just making furniture to perhaps processing or to making other types of things. And in each of those business units, you're going to need people who can lead. And where will you get them from? Do you want to always go out to hire somebody that brand new? Or do you sometimes want to be able to have groomed people who understand the company, with whom you have a trusting relationship with, and whom you've groomed and can be entrusted to lead on their own? So the question of whether is not whether or not you should invest in your people. The question is, how can you afford not to? Because eventually, you as a leader, you're going to go away. And what are you going to leave behind? A big hole. So for me, it's really a question of, you must be investing in your people, because they are the future leaders. And you want that to be your legacy, not a legacy of, nobody ever led that company the way that I led it. When I was there, it was great. You see, the rest of these people, they cannot do anything. That is a sign of a poor leader. So to the second question, how do you deal with leaders who, if you are basically led by a leader who is not a coaching leader?
Yes.
What do you do as a subordinate? Now, here I want to say there are a couple of options that you have. And the first thing I would encourage you to the person who asked this, I want to encourage you to get a coach, because there are options left to you. Now, some of the options include perhaps exposing your leader to the opportunity to learn some coaching skills. You can influence your own boss to become aware of his or her areas of growth opportunity. That's one. Second, you yourself could invest in yourself to be a coach so that, if nothing else, the people who report to you are not saying the same thing about you that you are saying about your boss. A third option is, yes, you could always leave the organization. Because at the end of the day, we know that people do not quit companies, they quit people. And if you do not feel that you are growing, you could. Those are options. There are probably more options. But the big thing that I would share with the person who asked is this: get a coach. See, folks, every leader needs a coach, because the coach will support you in growing. And if your leader isn't being that coach, then you owe it to your own career and your own growth to get a coach. And there are coaches available, including Sam and Sarah Jesse, so that you can come up and with clear goals for yourself and raise your awareness about the options available to you, and then take the right decisions.
Thank you
Sam.
very much. Thank you very much. Victoria, I believe that helps you. Frida Mensah says, very insightful. Maimu Alaisan says, please, there's becoming a coaching leader depend on the specific character of your follower. So that's one question you want to note from Al Hassan. Does becoming a coaching leader depend on the specific character of your followers? Collison Amua says, thank you very much, sir. Please, how can I implement my ideas as a coaching leader? How can I implement my ideas as a coaching leader? Daniel Ajelabi says, wow, amazing insight. Periofori says, very insightful. We've taken Victoria's question. Jerry Boachidankwa says, great presentation, thanks. Saidu Victor says he's enjoying the presentation. God bless you. So answer those two questions. There are a couple more, so we can go to them.
Awesome. So I believe the question, the first one was from Naimo, and it says, does becoming a coaching leader depend on the character of the followers? No, it doesn't. You as the leader are the key influencer on your followers. Regardless of the character of the follower, you can choose to be a coaching leader to them. In fact, it is your coaching that will help to influence the choices that the followers make. So, as a leader, your followers are not the ones who determine whether you're a coaching leader or not. You are. And your vision for the organization, your vision for the impact you want to make in their lives, and your vision for the legacy that you want to leave is what really determines whether you're a coaching leader or not. To the question of Collison, which is, how can I implement my ideas as a coaching leader? I love that question, because intrinsic in that question is one of the reasons why many people, leaders, are not coaching leaders, because there's a subconscious belief that my ideas are the best ideas. And to be a true coaching leader, you have to divorce yourself from that myth that I have the best ideas. And you have to come to that point of realizing or believing that it's possible that my ideas are not the best. And so I should ask rather than tell. I should solicit input rather than give it. Rather than give the solution to a problem, I should share the problem so that others can weigh in on it. Now that takes tremendous humility, because for some people, they may be afraid, well, my people may not see me as the leader anymore because I don't have the answers. Guess what, folks? You already have the title. You don't have to prove to them that you are the leader. What you have to do is to get them from point A to point B and facilitate that process. So it doesn't make you any less of a boss if you ask them their opinion, or if you take their opinion and implement it, or if you give them credit for the fact that this idea, this thing is because so-and-so person had an idea and we've implemented it. In fact, it builds them up. And it makes them have even more commitment. So to Collison, the point is less about how you can implement your ideas as a coaching leader. The point is, how can you get the best ideas for your organization? Because the key is, it's not about you, it's about your organization. And what you are doing as the leader has to always be assessed from the lens of what is best for the organization, not what is best for me, Collison. It's what is best for the organization. And sometimes what is best for the organization may not be what is best for me or what makes me feel good. And so this is what we have to do. So as a leader, this transition from being a non-coaching leader to a coaching leader involves subjugating your own personal interests for the organization's interest, so that you are serving the people that you lead and their needs become priority. And part of their needs is their growth. So rather than worrying about what are your ideas, even though they may sound great to you, I know I have that challenge. My ideas always sound perfect to me. But you need to hold on to them and ask the question, seek input, get their ideas, because they may have even better ideas. And for one thing, that's for sure, they are more likely to implement their own ideas than yours. So I hope this has been of help. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you so much, Sam, so much for those great answers. Aina Junior O Agbe. Aina says, grateful for the opportunity. My take home is succession planning. We get carried away with competition that we forget about life after our role. So that's a comment. Reverend Ebenezer Alabi has this comment. Thank you so much, Modupe. My question is, what do you do when you keep impacting your followers and some section of them never get it, no matter how many times you train them and they just want to follow? That is from Reverend Alabi. Willis Kweku, the transformation of how to become a good coach has already started. This is a plus to our transformation. Very educative. Judith Owusu, please, if you want to coach a successor, does it necessarily need to be your relative? Okay, so I mean, I guess this is probably if you have a small company or your own company and you need a successor, does it have to be your relative? I'm just guessing that's where the question is angling from. Okay. Tete Junior Anthony says, great presentation. Please, can you explain again? Avoid the temptation to be the smartest person in the room. So those are three questions, I believe. One from Dr. Reverend Alabi. You've trained these people, they don't want to get it. They just want to follow. They don't want to be leaders. What do you do? Judith wants to know, if you want a successor, does it have to be your relative? And Tete Junior wants you to explain again what you mean by not being the smartest person in the room. Doctor.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thank you, Reverend Ebenezer, for the question about, what do you do? Some people, you try for them to be leaders, and, all they want to do is follow. All they want, in fact, Ebenezer, it can happen that people get sometimes frustrated with you when you don't give them the answers that they want. They say, no, I come to him with questions, my problem, and he didn't solve it for me. It's like sometimes I had a friend who said, I don't like this doctor. I said, why? He says, because the last 2 times I went there, he refused to give me injection. I said, but maybe your problem didn't require injection. He said, well, he's not a good doctor then. So the reality is that, yes, there are people for whom what is needed for them is not what they want. Now, what do you do, Eben? Do you, like the doctor, say, okay, well, let me just give you the injection so you are happy? No. Your role as the leader is to serve them. And serving them doesn't mean pleasing them. It means serving them, serving their needs. So now some of them will take it very quickly and will accept it and will adopt it. Some of them, it will take a long time, but you keep working with them. It's like Jesus said, 70 times 7, you keep working with them. If Jesus got frustrated with us, imagine where we would be. So with those people, Ebenezer, you keep working with them, keep encouraging them, keep helping them to make decisions for themselves. The reality is that they need it. And one of the great sometimes disservices that we have done for as even people, ministers of the gospel, with some of our flock, is that we have kept just feeding them and not encouraging them to learn how to feed themselves by studying the Bible. But I digress. Let me leave that one for now. Let's go to Judith. When you're training a successor, does it need to be a relative? No, it doesn't need to be a relative. That one, it depends on what your goals are. You can train people who are not your relative. In fact, one of the reasons why a lot of African companies do not last more than 2-3 generations is because we insist on succession planning to a relative. Here's the reality, folks. The fact that you are successful in a business doesn't mean that your child or your nephew really is that passionate about your business. And do not conflate the issues of ownership versus management. You can hand over the ownership and the shareholding of your business to your children, but that doesn't mean that they must be the ones running the business. This is part of what we as leaders have to learn and grow into. And I know that the tradition in Africa has been that, well, if I'm owning it, I have to run it. Nobody will run my business as well as I do, because if I leave it in somebody's hands, they will start to steal it, they will do this. There are ways to solve that problem. And if you want to know more about it, I encourage you to join BCA, get a coach so that we can help you with the process of transitioning from a one-person business to a corporation so that you can be able to free yourself from the shackles of having to run your business by yourself or with your children every single day. Now, having said that, if what you want is to strictly keep it in the family, then yes, you can plan for your successor to be a relative. So to the third question, how do we avoid the temptation of, so re-explain, I believe it was Tete saying, please explain how to avoid the temptation to be the smartest person in the room. What I mean is that it really serves your ego when people are asking you questions. For example, right now, even as we're on this call, I have to constantly check myself and my pride because people are asking questions. And there's the temptation to think, look, I am the smartest person in the room. But the reality is that I'm not. And anytime you start to feel that, know that you are in danger. And I wish that we had more opportunities to have engagement and to have some of the people who are asking the questions, those questions to be answered by some other people who are here just listening. Because I'm quite confident that there are even better answers lying within all of you than the ones I have. Now, once you get into a habit in a meeting of answering every question, people are happy to let you carry on and do it. This is one of the reasons why I keep referring you to get a coach, to join BCA, because when you're in our meetings, you get to learn from others, and not just from the coaches, but you get to learn collectively, and you are also contributing to other people's development. And that is very important. So being the smartest person in the room, or appearing to be the one who is answering all the questions. And I just want to say for everybody, it is only because of some of the limitations of our technology that I am agreeing to answer so many questions. But if we were in an environment where we could go back and forth with each other, I would be happy to deflect the questions to the group and to say, what do you think? Because I am confident that other people have perspectives that are just as valuable and probably more valuable than mine. But we will make do with what we have. And I just encourage you, when you're in your meetings with your teams, to resist the urge to answer every question directly. And sometimes to ask around the room and say, what do you think? Your peers. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you very much. I see so many questions coming up again. So, yes, we would take a few more from Reverend Appinting. Great, simple, and straight to the point. What do you say to the challenge of impatience among African youth? I don't know if it's only African youth, especially in developing careers and business. So that is one question from Reverend Isaac Appinton. Jerry Boachidankwa asks, how can you coach people who will not learn? They are in a hurry and will not pay attention to details and continue to repeat same mistakes after several guidance sessions. All right. So those are two questions on impatience. The third one, Ben BJK says, how do you deal with a coach leader who does not tolerate people who have so many questions? All right, so those three questions, maybe you should take them from Reverend Isaac Apenti, from Jerry Boachidankwa, and from Ben. And then we can move to the next ones. All right.
Okay. So Isaac, Isaac's question, which is, how do you deal with the, level of impatience in Africa's youth in developing their careers? One of the reasons why a lot of youth are impatient is because they have access to a lot of information around them. And they are no longer held back by having to depend solely on what their leader tells them. They can double check it. They can go on YouTube. They can go on Snapchat or whatever other technology. They can Google it. And they see other people developing faster. This is one of the reasons why the coaching methodology is so important for them. Because if you are seeing impatience among youth, it's usually because you have been doing a lot of telling to them. Let me say that again. For all of us here, if you are seeing your youth not wanting to listen to you, it's because you're doing too much telling to them. Start listening to them. Ask them, where do you want to go? When do you want to get there? How will you get there? Let them tell you. If they are being impatient and they haven't thought through it, when you ask them, they will start to realize it for themselves, which is far better than if you are the one telling them, my friend, you know, this thing you want to do, it will not happen so soon, or in my experience, that will not get them to pay attention. So in today's world, as we are looking to lead young people who have access to probably more information than we even ever dreamed of, we have to be even more of coaching leaders. And that starts with, again, asking questions. Resist the temptation to tell them anything. They don't want to hear it anyway. And they have access to far more resources that can tell them anything. So be the person that asks them questions. Where do you want to go? When do you want to get there? What will it look like when you get there? How would you get there? What are the obstacles you anticipate? How many people have gotten there in this path like you? What would be the first step? So then you get them to think. So that is my encouragement to you, Isaac. The next question, which was Jerry, you know, what do you do with people who seemingly refuse to learn, refuse to have attention to detail? Now, I have to confess that there isn't enough information here for me to give a reasonable prognosis. But one of the things that is important for a leader is to have crucial conversations with our people in which there is clarity about what is going to be done and when. Many times when I've spoken or shared with leaders and I've asked them and they've expressed frustration about their people, about they're not paying attention to this, they're not giving me what I want. A number of times it is because we haven't been very clear in our communication to the people. And again, this comes back to not telling, but asking. So when somebody doesn't do what you expected, instead of saying, you haven't done what I expected, ask them, what is it that you believed was the instruction? Share that with me. And then you will get a better idea as to whether they even understood it in the first place. So remember this, everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership is the cause, everything else is the effect. Any situation that persists because the leader either likes it that way or because they tolerate it to stay that way. So if you have people who apparently insist on not having attention to detail, that's not because they are just that way. That's because you as the leader, there's something that you are doing or not doing that is allowing or encouraging that situation to persist. To the question of Ben, how do you deal with a leader who, sorry, Sam, can you help me again with Ben's question?
Yeah, the question is, how do you deal with a coach leader who does not tolerate people who have so many questions?
Okay. First of all, a coach leader would definitely tolerate people who ask questions. So you are saying, how do you deal with a leader who doesn't tolerate people with so many questions? This is similar to the question of somebody who says, I'm working under a leader who is not a coach. Again, first of all, I would encourage all of you to get a coach because there are going to be nuances to your situation that need to be explored so that you come up with the right decision. But the answer is similar to what I said. You have options. You have options. One, you can seek to influence that leader by asking your leader a question. Say, boss, I notice you seem to get irritated when we're asking questions. Is there a bet? How can I better get answers from you without irritating you? Or why? Sometimes we need to be aware of that. Maybe the problem is the timing of when you ask the questions. Similarly, you can also get your boss to be aware of ways in which your boss can also grow as a leader. And get your boss to actually get a coach for herself or himself. So these are options that you have available to you. But ultimately, for you to really explore them, I encourage you to get a coach. Have a conversation with a coach. And you will get greater clarity as to the options that you have, and also come up with, based on your awareness of yourself and your situation, come up with a solution or the ideal option that you will implement. And when you do that, then you will be able to be a leader yourself, because you not only have to lead your subordinates, because to lead is to influence, but you also have to lead your peers, and sometimes you have to lead your boss. Now that sounds strange, but when you remember that leadership is influence, there's nothing standing in the way of you being able to influence your boss. That is one of the opportunities that we have in Africa. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you so much. On the point of asking questions, I remember when we were in the village, we had an older man. Every time he sent you to go and deliver a message or do something, he would stop and say, "What did I say you should go and do? Tell me back." So he would want you to repeat exactly what he said you should go and say. And when you were saying that, he said, no, that's not what I said. Let me say it again. Then he will say it and he will ask you, what did I say you should go and tell the person? You know, very
Absolutely.
Good way.
Absolutely. And again, like you say, Sam, you know, and when people, they do that, they get frustrated. This man is too difficult. But it's because he has learned from experience that when the person goes and delivers the wrong message, it is not because the person was a bad follower. It is because he was a bad leader. And he takes ownership of that and makes sure that you understand it very clearly.
Good. Lord Moses says, good evening. Thank you, Dr. Modikwe, for your presentation. I would like to know Doc's view on delegation of responsibility in leading as a coach. So delegation of responsibility in leading as a coach. Michael Annan says, Dr. Modikwe, is there a point one has to grow to as a leader before beginning to coach others, since one never stops learning how to lead? All right, so that's Michael's question. Do you have to get to a point before you start coaching? The third one, Charles Opon would like to know, how do you train leaders whose interest is to have their own? How do you train leaders whose interest is to have their own? So let's take those three.
To have their own what?
To have their own. I don't know exactly what that own is. I don't know. That question may not be complete. Maybe if Charles can come back to complete that question, that would be helpful. So take the Lord's question and Michael's question. Otherwise, Frank comes and says, thank you for answering his question. Really insightful. Teresa says, so much insight. Thank you so much. And so on. So give me those two answers. We have about 10 minutes. So a few more questions. Yes.
Okay. So Moses, First of all, I must say I love your name, Lord Moses. So I will answer with great reverence. Delegation of responsibility. How does, first of all, remember that as a leader, yes, you can delegate responsibility. Coaching is simply a method. It doesn't change the issue of responsibility. It's a method of getting your subordinates to think for themselves, to become more aware. The responsibility still can be delegated. So after you've had the conversation of, here's the challenge, what do we do? Or they've asked you and you've said, well, what do you think? Once you've then aligned and they've suggested, then you say, okay, when are we going to do this? When are you going to do this? Well, this action, I think I will do it so and so time. Okay, by what time? Yes, this day. And then you say, well, how will I know when you have done it? Then you get them to commit to whether reporting to you by so and so time. Now you have it's still their responsibility to come back to you with the report on it. So coaching does not change the issue of delegation of responsibility. To Michael's question, is there a point one has to grow to before you can start coaching? No. There is no point that you have to grow to. You can coach right now. Yes, you can. Because to be a coach doesn't mean that you have to be more experienced than the person you are coaching on the topic. To be a coach doesn't mean that you have to be older than the person that you are coaching on the topic. To be a coach doesn't mean that you have to be richer or higher position. You can coach anyone. You can coach your parents. I did that just this afternoon by asking questions of my 87-year-old father. And through the questions, he became more aware of some of the gaps in some of his thinking. And he said, actually, no, you're right. And I thought to myself, I actually didn't say anything. I just asked the question. But I got him to think about different options. So there is no point that you have to get to. You just have to get into the habit of not giving statements or answers, but asking questions. So for example, if somebody says, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be able to coach now because I need to wait until I'm 25 years old because then, and I'll finish my bachelor's degree. Then you, rather than saying, well, I disagree, I think you can coach at any age, what you can say is, interesting. So what would be different about your ability to ask questions when you are 26 versus when you are 23? Now, when you ask that question, the person starts to think and realizes, well, really nothing. And they start to then process into the answer of, if really the process of coaching is asking questions, then what is stopping me today? Another example is when I was considering taking some action and I wasn't sure what to do. I had a dilemma as to, should I go ahead and ask them? And one of my coaches said to me, well, Modupe, what do you have to lose? And I thought and realized, well, actually nothing. So I might as well just do it. Now, they could have come back instead of saying that question and said, well, I think you ought to do it now. But if they did that, I might have been less willing to take the action because it would have been their idea. But by them asking me questions and getting me to come up with the conclusion that, well, there's no real time like the present, then I owned that idea. and I was therefore more willing to implement it. So, Michael, please do not let your youth or your experience fool you into believing that you have to wait for something before you can start being a coaching leader. You can start it today. Back to you, Sam.
I'm mindful of the time. We have 5 minutes, but a few questions. I'm going to go through them quickly, and then if you can just take them snappy. Charles Opon, how do you train leaders whose interests? Oh, we were not able to understand that very well, so we will skip that. The next question, how do you manage between a leader who is positional minded and who wants your followers to also report to him? All right, so that's question number 1 from Perry Ofori. Tete Junior Anthony, how easily is it to be a coaching leader in governmental organizations? That is from Tete Junior. Governmental organization, how easy is it to be a coaching leader? I'm looking for questions. There are a lot of compliments here. Joshua Bonnie, it has always been a concern to me why businesses in Africa do not last long. Do you think the problem is only about bad succession planning, or there are other reasons? Okay, so those are 3 questions. Let me see if there is any, so we can just sum them up. I'm seeing Victoria asking, must your choice of coach be from your organization or external source? And then I think finally somebody has asked, how can we join BCA? So you can talk to that. Dr. Book, last one from George Esel. Dr. Modipe, if any leader refuses to coach their followers for organization to grow beyond generation, then can they answer the question, what jobs would be available for the leaders' kids if the organization collapses without better leader after they exit? All right, so those are the questions I'm picking from here, but otherwise, great answers, and God bless you abundantly. We have 4 minutes, so if you sum up for us, we always want to respect the time of the audience, and so and give us your closing remarks, Doc.
So great. So I'll please forgive me. I'm going to be fairly snappy with these answers because of time. Perry, a positional-minded leader who basically wants to take your own people and have them report directly to him, that person needs a coach. So the best thing you can do is really just find, influence them to get a coach. Get them to join BCA, because it sounds like they are really looking to grab power instead of empower you. Tete, can you be a coaching leader in a government organization? Yes, you can. Joshua, businesses in Africa that do not last long, is it solely because of succession planning? Yes, it is. Absolutely, that's it. And I can go into more details, but I can tell you that's exactly it. And Sam can even explain to you how, when in his experience at EcoBank, succession planning was embedded into the DNA. And that's why EcoBank is lasting long today, and other banks are here today and gone tomorrow. Victoria, the choice of coach from an external source, yes, you can have a choice from external source. It doesn't have to be in your company, and there may be reasons why you don't want it to be somebody in your company. So that's okay. You can choose from an external source. And if you want to find a coach, definitely you can get one from BCA, from Breakfast Club Africa. Just go to www.breakfastclubafrica.com and you can go to the membership and join, and you can see all the coaches we have there. You can join as a member. And I do encourage you to do that, because every leader needs a coach. This is one of the reasons why African businesses have not grown as much as they can and have not lasted as long. And I believe George said, what do you say to the one who refuses to be a coaching leader? Will they have a job for their kids? That's an excellent rhetorical question. You know, sadly, some of us as Africans, we do not have a long view. We can be selfish. We worry about what we'll eat today and not tomorrow. Or we worry about building our own house for today and not what our children and grandchildren will have. And that is very sad. But rather than complain about the situation, we, Sam, myself, Sarah Jesse, have decided that what we will do is raise awareness. And if we succeed in raising the awareness of the people right here on this call, then we have done what we need to do. Because change starts one person at a time. And I believe that we have succeeded in raising awareness of people on this call, and that is a fire that will light other fires. Because folks, if you are on this call, you are already good to go. The danger of you ever starving is pretty remote. So it's not about you anymore. It's about whether you are going to take actions to ensure that a child born today in Africa, in Ghana, has an opportunity to a good job, excellent education, good health care. 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now. And the actions and decisions we make as leaders today will determine that. They're not going to influence whether we are driving 2 cars versus 1 car, and who cares? Most of us are at the age where we need to eat less rather than more anyway. So my encouragement to all of you is to remember that what we're doing is leaving a legacy for what kind of Africa will be around. And I don't want any of us to find out one day that we are 80 years old and we are still complaining about how, the good old days, it used to be so much better then. No. We must change that. And I thank Sam for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. God bless you.
Thank you, Modupe, and God bless you. Great insights we have shared. 2 quick things. Sarah and I have put together a training on how to become a coach, or how to coach better. So there's a training available which we are prepared to offer even before the end of the year. It's a half-day training, and it's going to be a mastermind. We'll do it online, and we're going to have role plays to enable you learn how to coach. So for those of you who want a deeper, training on hands-on training on how to coach, Sarah has this training which we are prepared to offer the CTL for you, half-day training before the end of the year. If you contact me or contact CTL Africa, we'll take the names and then we will communicate the date to you as quickly as possible. Those of you interested, please contact us. My number is 05407084433. And also on the 19th of this month, next week, will be the next Breakfast Club meeting. So those of you who are interested, contact us so that we can send you the invitation. Breakfast Club meetings are by invitations, and they are for CEOs and head of organizations only. But interesting and exciting, more interesting and exciting, we are coming up at the Breakfast Club Africa with a program for the next level. We call it the C-Suite, the upcoming CEO. So if you are not a CEO, on the 30th of November, we are launching this program, the next level CEO program, which will be for those of you who are preparing yourself to be CEOs. And we have an amazing speaker who is going to talk about, Pan-Africanism as the way forward for our development. Every African CEO, every African leader needs to understand that leading Africa-wide is the way to go. If we are going to grow, we are not going to be able to grow as our small countries and small economies. We need to pull together. And that understanding is going to be key. So we're going to have a Pan-African cohort on the next level of leaders who are going to be CEOs for the next generation. And we want you to join the launch on the 30th of November. You can contact us for further details on how to join. So on that note, I just want to thank everybody for sharing your evening with us. We want to thank the Almighty God for leading us through, for guiding us and giving us an eloquent speaker and teacher to lead us through this topic. I believe that we have learned a lot. As we say always, these topics we just skim the surfaces, but we have detailed courses behind each topic that we are treating here. Every topic that we have treated in the last 12, 13 weeks on this platform, we have a full course behind it. And we are putting them together. They are available. Those who want us to come and deliver them in your organizations, in your churches, please feel free to contact us and we'll come and give you a full course on each of these topics. Thank you very much. Have a very good night and God richly bless all of you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. What is Breakfast Club Africa? Breakfast Club Africa is a Pan-African organization formed with the singular purpose of igniting exponential growth in African companies through the provision of amazing learning experiences for leaders of African companies. At BCA, we recognize that Africa needs economic growth and Africa needs jobs, and company leaders want their companies to succeed and grow. Yet the growth rate of non-African owned companies in Africa far exceeds the growth rate of African owned companies. This is a problem that Breakfast Club Africa was designed to solve. By creating amazing learning experiences for African business leaders, we are igniting their leadership growth and the growth of their companies. Members meet monthly for peer learning meetings and problem solving and benefit from coaching from the best leadership coaches in Africa. In our 3 years of existence, we have already positively impacted over 100 CEOs from 11 countries. If you are the leader of your company and you want your company to accelerate its growth, join BCA. Learn with and from other leaders with a growth mindset. Africa needs you to be at your best.